Okay, so I just wanted to make a video for anyone who's interested on a transcription workflow using the software Transcribe by SevenString and using Dorico as a notation software. There are lots of different softwares. I'm not specifically talking about these softwares, it's more just about the workflow really. And I'm going to do a quick transcription of one polka from the set of 3 polkas by the Begley family from the series Slína Begley. There are 3 polkas here: Dolly's polka, the Glen Cottage, and Peta Biog the Vor. So I've actually started notating these already. I've notated Dolly's and the Glen Cottage, and I thought I'd just make a quick video just to show my workflow for the final one. I'm going to start adding transcriptions like these to my website, which is here, linesonmusic.com. So you can see here I've got a transcription. These are completely free if anyone wants them, if they're useful. So there's a transcription of a Django Reinhardt solo with notation and tab. And here is the first 2 polkas from that set of 3. So I'm actually just going to do the 3rd polka from this set now. So basically my workflow is extracting the audio of whatever I want to transcribe. I will then bring it into SevenString, which is this, or sorry, Transcribe by SevenString, which is this software here on the right hand side. I'll typically listen to it a few times, get it in my ear. If it's more complicated, I might mark it out in the timeline, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. And then I'll start inputting the notes, listening to it, going back and forth between Dorico and Transcribe. So I've already extracted the audio. I've already imported it in here. You can see here that along the top line I've got some flags indicating the different sections. The first 2 I've already done, and I'm going to do this final one up here. Just give you an overview of the workspace here. Again, this is not a tutorial on the software itself, but I'm just going to signpost a few things really quickly. When you import the audio into Transcribe, it gives you a waveform. It'll also do video as well, which is really useful. Along the bottom you can see I've got a slider to zoom in or zoom out. I can also control the volume from here. I've got the playback controls. But most importantly, over here on the bottom I've got a slider for the speed. So if I go to 100% here and I find the tune I want to play, you should hear this. So you can hear it playing back. If I'm learning something or I'm transcribing something, I will usually slow it down. So I'm going to bring that down to about 70%, just to give you a sense of what that sounds like. I've also got some buttons along here on the top that I've set up, so I'm just going to play it back at 70%. Okay, that makes it much easier to transcribe. And also, I know because I've been playing some of these a little bit, that the tuning that the Begley family are using here doesn't sit on the flute as well as I would like, so I want to actually pitch it down a tone. So conveniently here, Transcribe will allow me to do that. If I go to the very bottom here, I can just move this slider 1 semitone, 2 semitones, and now I've transposed it down a tone, which is very helpful. And I know that that's the way I want it to be, so that's fine. So now when I play it back, okay, so I'm kind of more in a kind of a G tonality here, and that is suitable for a keyless D flute, which is what I'm going to be using. So okay, so as you can see here along the top, I've got some flags indicating that this is the 3rd tune in this set of polkas. I've also indicated the B section. If I zoom in here a little bit, so you can see I can drop section markers if I want. So if I play this by hitting the button S, I can drop a section marker. Just after coming with the letter Q, if I double click on that, I can just hit second A section, for example. And And then it brings me to the B section over here. If I want, and I would do this for something that's probably more complex, I can add kind of measure markers along the way here. So if I just go back ever so slightly, give myself a bit of a lead in, and I'm going to play it's a few bars in, and I'm going to use the key M on my QWERTY keyboard to drop a marker. So I'm going to do that on the beat. Okay, so now that I've marked all of the beats, all of the bars, I should say, I'm just going to slide this flag over here a little bit so I can see them. I can also mark the actual beats in the bars. So if I right click on this beat on this bar marker, I can click edit this marker, make sure I'm selected to measure. I can subdivide that. So currently it's set to 4. If this was in 4/4, I would subdivide it like that. But because it's a polka, it's in 2/4. I'm going to subdivide them in 2. And now you can see that all of my bars are divided in 2. And if I play it back, you can see that this is kind of a helpful visual aid if you're trying to transcribe something. So there we have our 16 bars kind of mapped out in our timeline. I don't really need to do that for this piece of music. It's not too complicated. So I'm just kind of doing that for reference, really, just to kind of show you that that's kind of a workflow or an approach that I might use. So once I've kind of marked out my piece of music and I want to transcribe it, notate it, I'm going to open my software, which is Dorico, which is what I'm using. Again, this isn't a software tutorial. Steinberg, who make Dorico, have loads of excellent tutorials on their website on how to use the software, loads of video guides and so on. But if you're familiar with using Sibelius or other music notation softwares, the principles are similar. In fact, as far as I'm aware, the people that made Dorico all previously worked with Sibelius, and I think this was their effort to make a better software, which I think they succeeded in doing. Okay, so you can see here I'm in the Dorico workspace. If I make the window a little bit wider, basically it's got a couple of different windows outlining the workflow. You set up your project, so you can indicate the different players that you want. Here I'm just making a very, very simple transcription, which is really intended for a student or for some other musicians that I want to play with, to give them just a quick shorthand of the music. For something like trad music or jazz solos, notating them is fine if it serves that kind of purpose, but I think if you're trying to learn the music, it's always better to do it by ear. So maybe that's a little caveat about why you might do this. For my purposes here, it's either to share with someone in a teaching setting, or to share with some other musicians that might not have these settings of these tunes. So coming back to the software here, we've got setup mode, we've got write mode, which is what we'll mainly be in. We've got engrave mode, which allows us to align the systems, kind of add text and so on. There's a playback engine here, which you can use with general MIDI, or if you've got different VST instruments, you can use those for playback. If you're using like various kind of symphonic engines and things like that, you might work with those in here. And then you've got your output section, your print section. So I'm just going to go back to the setup section here very quickly. You can see here the first page of where I've gotten to so far. And along the bottom, you can see that there are two flows, the Dawley's Polka flow and the Glen Cottage flow. Dorico works in flows. These are basically like units or sections of music, I guess you would say. So I'm going to make a new flow to transcribe the next section. So I'm going to go over here to the right hand side, add flow. And here we get something here. I'm going to rename it actually. It's called PWG. Actually, it's going to get the exact title from here. PWG. Okay. So now I've got my flow named, and I'm going to jump into write mode. So in my new flow, you can see that I've got one long bar of music, which isn't really helpful in terms of what I'm trying to put together here. So the first thing I need to do is indicate the time signature. So if I click on the rest here, I get this orange line. This is the caret. This is kind of the input marker that Dorico uses. The first thing I want to do is put in the metronome, the time signature. So I'm going to go Shift M. That'll bring up my window. I'm going to put in 2/4 because this is a polka. And then I'm also going to put in my key signature. So I'm going to go Shift and K to put in my key signature. So now that's in the key of G. And I'm getting somewhere, but now I've still only got one bar of music. So I'm going to go here to the very end, click on the right hand, on the double bar line here at the end. And actually, just in terms of the navigation, what's happening here on the very left hand side, you can see we've got all of our different note inputs, different note values, rests, tuplets, triplets, and so on. And on the right hand side, we've got things like clefs, key signatures, time signatures, dynamics, bar lines, and so on. So I'm going to go to the bars and bar line section, which is already open, and I'm going to go to input bars. I can choose the beginning of the flow or the end of the flow. I'm going to choose the end of the flow, and I'm going to put in 16 bars because that's what we want. 16 bars. Now I have my 16 bars. I'm going to go to, I don't like how this is laid out. I quite like the simplicity of having the exact same amount of bars on each system. So here we've got 4 bars per system, 16 bars, 4 lines, 4 systems, much easier to look at. So to do that, I kind of need to change from the write mode to the engrave mode, because the engrave mode is where I do my layout. So I'm going to move along 4 bars, click on the bar line, and over on the left hand side here, I've got an option to format systems. I'm going to create system break. And I'm going to do the same again down here. Click 4 bars in, create system break, 4 bars in, create system break. And now I have 4, 4, 4, and 5. I put in 1 bar too many. So I'm going to go back to my write mode. There is a, what do we call it again? System track, I think. Alt T. Yeah. So here, if I click Alt T, I get this system track tracking the various bars, and I can see that I've got 16, 17, 1 too many. So if I click on this here, I get a little trash can, so I can get rid of that bar. So now I've got 16 bars as I want. I'm going to go to bar 8 here, and I'm going to add in my repeat because I know these are going to be AABB form tune. It's going to be an AABB form tune, and I'm going to do the same at the end. I'm going to add a repeat marking there. Okay, and going to turn off the, okay, let's see. Okay, so let's start notating this out. I'm going to make this a bit smaller so I can see. So I'm fairly familiar with this because I've been listening to this a lot. So so the note inputs here, I can quickly change these using the numeric keypad. If I hover over them, you can see a minimum 7, a crotchet is 6, quaver is 5. So I'm going to go 5. I'm actually going to go back to my quarter note here. So G. So you can hear the sound is set to flute because that's what I'm playing. Okay, so change over here. And I can just input the notes here using my QWERTY keyboard. If I have a MIDI keyboard, I can do that as well, but I actually find it's quite useful to do it with the QWERTY keyboard. So so that note is not correct, that last one. So back here. If the note is inputted incorrectly, I can hold Alt and click down, and That's correct. And go to my next. So let's hear it. So there's my first 4 bars. Oh. Got a little triplet here. So I'm going to say in my 8th notes, on the left hand navigation here, I can change it into triplets. So I'm going to go up. I know that's so I'm just using my cursor to move along through these notes. I can play it back, but it's kind of quick to go through it like this. I find it useful. Bring up the arpeggio. Back down. So let's have a listen. Okay, and so we know that the next 4 bars from listening to it are quite similar. So, undo. I know the next word are going to be the first 3 are probably the exact same, more or less. So let's hear it. It's going to be just GG. Okay, I'm just going to click save. So we can play back. So if I hit play, so it sounds pretty close. I think that's good. And again, it's really just for reference for students or for other players. I mean, to learn this kind of music, you really need to listen to the recordings. That's where you get the nuance of, the musician's sound, their kind of rhythmic kind of impulse, if they push or pull on the beat, how they kind of add that rhythmic character, that subtle rhythmic character, which I'm not notating here. I'm really striving for simplicity of notation here, that we can see if it's quarter notes, 8th notes, triplets, and so on, so that a student can kind of easily pick this up and kind of learn it quite quickly. And then, you encourage them to listen to the recording and kind of get going that way. Okay, so let's move on to the B section. Second A here. So might be. Sorry, my mouse is set up to move. Okay, so. Dorico. If I want to play back from a specific note, I just highlighted it and hit P. And much like the A section here, the B section is going to repeat quite a bit of it. Probably again the first 3 bars. So conveniently I can just highlight this and copy and paste. Actually, what I might do is I might add a little kind of ghost note C here, which I can do from over here, a grace note. So that's not quite right. So I think I see what I've done wrong here, and I'm going to get rid of this grace note. Silly error. So I've made this first note a quarter note, but it's actually not a quarter note, it's an eighth note. Actually, what I'm going to do, just to show you, so in the same way that I can move a note up by holding Alt and the cursor, I can also do that with the whole system. I can move it left and right if I need to displace a rhythm in one direction or another. So I'm going to hold Alt, left cursor, and that should give me something that's closer to what I'm looking for. And again, same thing here. Need to go up at that. Okay, and actually make this an eighth note. Oh, sorry, quarter note. Let's take a MIDI doesn't do it justice, of course. Kind of kills the kind of sense of phrasing that the musicians have in the recording, but its melody line I think is accurate now. Okay, so let's listen to the whole thing. Okay. Let's maybe slow down a little bit. Oh, 140. Didn't play my repeat. It's going to add this in for now. Oh. Heck. Going to do this. I don't like it written with the double bar line at the beginning, but it'll play back my repeats. Actually, I think I'm going to make this D here quarter note. Okay, I'm happy with that. It's definitely a good enough guide for a student or for another musician. This accompanied with the recording will make it much quicker for them to learn. The other thing is, I guess it's important to be style and learner conscious. So in traditional Irish music, many musicians read conventional notation like this, but some do not. The emphasis is typically more on getting people playing than getting them like sight reading, as in like a student, a classical violin student, they'd focus on notation much earlier probably. So using something like ABC notation would be the common convention here. So I'm going to add ABC notation just to letter names along the bottom. And I can do this by just clicking Shift. What am I doing? Yeah, that's right. So if I go Shift L will allow me to add lyrics. But I'm going to use that lyric box here actually just for the notation. So rather than doing it every time, I'm just going to do it once, and I'm just going to type them as I go. Actually, I'm going to go back here first. So the convention here would be to add so the convention here would be to add a single inverted comma here to indicate that it's in the kind of higher register, in the upper register. So I'm going to do that for everything, I guess, above that D. So Shift L, F, single inverted, D, so for the high D. So it kind of tells me that I'm in the kind of second octave or the upper range. Okay, and that is done. So I'm now going to go to print section. I can see page 1 here. Let's see. Oh. And I can see now I've got my 3 polkas from that Begley family recording, Dolly's polka, Glen Cottage, and the one we've just worked on here, number 3. All looks good. I'm happy with the layout. Nice and clean, legible for anyone who wants to use it. And I'm just going to choose graphics, PDF, mono, because I'm not printing in color here. Export. And here I have my 3 polkas, fairly nicely laid out. Yeah, happy with that. Job done. So hopefully that's helpful for somebody. If it is, and you want to see more of this kind of workflow, let me know in the comments. Happy to do so. If there's anything in particular that you want transcribed or notated, yeah, just let me know in the comments. Hopefully you found that helpful. Thanks. Bye-bye.